Yes, hello everyone, Falter Ash, Goody Cooling Media. Welcome back to another weekend review show here on the channel. We are doing this one a little bit later than usual. Usually we would be doing it on a Sunday night at 8 p.m. Today we're doing it on a Monday at 8 p.m. because obviously myself and Aaron were on the live stream watching along for all the games for 4 hours and 23 minutes exactly yesterday. Aaron, have we recovered yet, or are we still seeing double after that?
Yeah. I think we're all good now. Still wishing the result was a little bit different at Dublin Galway. I mean, yeah, like watching the highlights back and everything else, like we were in such a good position for so long in both games. Like everything was going our way, and even like with Armagh coming back in the way that they did, Kerry still did us a favor. Like we still got a favor from the Kingdom, but yeah, look, a mental weekend of action, like seeing some of the games back and what Wexford were able to do in Division 3 with the late goal and some of the late scenes and commentary, Longford's late victory, obviously some big games in hurling, ladies football, Kamogi as well. So, yeah, looking forward to getting into it.
We have plenty to get through. Brendan here getting involved in the live chat saying watch League Sunday this morning. And all I have to say is from Division 4 to Division 1, made it one hell of a day and an awesome advertisement for football. It certainly did. We had action all across every single division and all across the four coasts, but no question Super Sunday definitely was the main event of the weekend. And joining us all the way from Canada is Liam White. Liam, how are we keeping? How's the other side of the world treating you?
You're muted, bro.
Muted your mic there.
Good start. That's how practice I am. Yeah, it's 4:00 over here at the moment. The weather's been up and down. There's been one or two nice days. There's 1 or 2 days it was raining, and I felt rightly at home. The results from back at home have not exactly helped my mood. I will say that. Awfully continuously disappointing me in the league camp. I will say I will not miss this year's league campaign by any stretch of the imagination. And of course, Arsenal deciding to not turn up to a final yesterday, which was even better. But other than that, it's been a great trip. I'd recommend Toronto, and the people I've stayed with, top class, can't complain. Would definitely come back here again. But yeah, no, it's been a great week away. Been keeping up with these lads as best as I could. Even tuned in for a couple of minutes at a Toronto Raptors game last week. I was nearly tempted to join into the pod at it, but I thought maybe not the best idea. But yeah, no, it's been really good. And fair play to you for doing that show yesterday. I think I'd have collapsed if I had to do those that Super Sunday watch along. But yeah, no, looking forward to jumping in. I won't be able to jump along long because I am flying back this evening. But yeah, looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So, and just for anybody who is confused or not knowing what we have cooking up, if you enjoyed our league show in the studio, we are doing another one for the championship, and we're going to do that this weekend. Unfortunately, we couldn't manage to get it sorted after the league finals, but we'll put that as a disclaimer in. Any predictions we're given for the championship are as of the 28th of March. So that will need to be expressed, lads, because we've seen how quickly things can change. Players might return, etc. People like Rian O'Neill were rumoured to take part in the final game. He didn't, but maybe he will return for championship. You never know. Gavin here saying would agree with Peter the Great, though, on RTE. It would have been more enjoyable if the last Super Sunday, was on a Saturday and 2 on a Sunday. I do look at it in a way and go, maybe split the divisions, Division 4, Division 3 and 4, maybe on the Saturday, 2 and 1 on the Sunday. But then again, you have the hurling, you have the Kamogi, you have the LGFA. The last day of action for the hurling was on Saturday, and all eyes are on that as well. But yeah, definitely there's a way to do it. I don't know why there's such a stigma about putting a game on at 1 o'clock on a Saturday. Why it has to be 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock on Saturday. Why we can't avail of that time. But I don't know. Brendan saying, as much as I hate it to say it, Dublin controlled the game, but the red for Padaro Coffey-Byrne lost you the game. Yeah, we are going to start there because, Aaron, we've had now a day to reflect on it, a day to think about it, but we didn't do our part of the bargain. Galway 20 points, Dublin a goal and 15 in Pearse Stadium. Dublin relegated to Division 2. Unfortunately, we couldn't pull off the miracle in Pearse Stadium. It looked when Killian McGuinness hit the back of the net that maybe, just maybe, it might be on, but the red card for Padaro Coffey-Byrne, among other things. And to be fair, going down the home stretch, Galway did put the shoulder to the wheel and were the better side. Rob Finnerty, especially booming over a 2-pointer, was a real statement of intent. Galway have relegated us down to Division 2. But yeah, I feel like, look, the sad thing is Kerry did their part. They stopped Armagh from winning the game. It was there for us if we could have got over the line. But unfortunately, we haven't, and we are relegated to Division 2. How much of an impact is this going to have? How much of an impact is this going to have on our preparations for the championship? You've seen, obviously, Jared Brennan getting a red card. He probably won't be able to be on the sideline for our first championship game. It's not an ideal way to go into the Leinster Championship, to say the least.
No, absolutely not. No, and it's disappointing again. It's kind of similar to the Armagh game. We started very strong. We started well. We did show a lot of positive signs throughout the game, and there are some positives to take, but I do think there's less positives to take from this game than the Armagh game, in my opinion. I think with Armagh, you can look at Armagh's brilliance for coming back and how good of a team that they are. But Galway were there for the taking. You look at the injuries that they had, the big players that they were missing, like Matthew Tierney goes off, Kieran Malloy goes off. Sean Kelly goes off. They've no Shane Walsh. They've no Damien Comer. No Matthew Thompson. What more could you? No Peter Cook. What more could you ask for? Kerry did their part. You know what I mean. So we got something there. If we had won this game, we would have stayed up. And we were in complete control of the game for large parts. We had a decent lead. And we just fell apart really. And I think ill discipline cost us, in my opinion. I know we will discuss the Jared Brennan situation in more detail. But yeah, that was obviously foolish. The Patrick Huffick burn red as well. You can't really have any complaints. It was just it put us on the back burner, to be honest with you. I know we got the goal shortly after that, but that came against a run of play, really. And I think we only scored 1 point maybe after the goal. So yeah, we fell apart, and it's disappointing from a Dublin perspective because it's not really what you'd normally associate with Dublin. But it is worrying because a lot of what we would associate with Dublin in terms of being able to control the game, clutch players, clutch moments, it does feel like it is kind of all gone. Even the senior players don't really seem to be offering as much as what they were. Going into Division 2 next year, I don't think it's a given that we get out of there, given some of the teams that are going to be in there. As someone said to me even on Twitter the other day as well, what happens if Kilkenny, Noel Scully, Brian Howard all step away? Do you know what I mean? There isn't a huge... I know we've blooded a lot of new players into the team, but there isn't too many. We'll see how the 20s get on, obviously, this season, but there doesn't seem like there's much really coming through that you can get too excited about. And I think it's going to be tough for Dublin. And I think it's going to be, I don't want to be too negative, but I think it's going to be a very difficult couple of years now, to be honest.
Well, having seen how Derry and Tyrone failed to get out of Division 2, and both of them are going to be gunning to get out next year. Down are going to be very, very good in Division 2 next season. I'd be pretty confident about that. And Monaghan as well, you never know. Monaghan usually make a good run of it, if not get promoted straight back up every time they get relegated from Division 1. So it's not going to be an easy division to get out of at all. Plenty of comments coming in. Sean O'Malley saying, sadly, we'll still have the same problems with games not being shown during the championship due to the split season. Brendan asking about the Jared Brennan incident said, did the Jared Brennan incident light a fire under the arses of Galway? Probably did. And we were saying that at half time. To be fair to Jared Brennan, he spoke quite well about the incident. He clearly regretted it straight after. He made a point of shaking hands with the guy and making up and everything like that. But it's a definite red card. You can't be doing that as the inter-county manager. You have to be leading by example. And when you've got all the players coming towards you at half time, it's very, very lucky that it didn't start a full-blown brawl. Because when a manager puts hands on someone and then someone puts hands on the manager, most of the players tend to run in at that point. And once most of the players run in, then you've got a full-blown brawl in your hands. So I think the officials and some cooler heads did very, very well to calm things down there. And I've seen some players, especially from Dublin and Galway, doing their part to calm that down and take it from a 100 down to a 0. But Jared Brennan should be leading the charge and calming it down. And he wasn't calming it down. He was riling it up. And to be fair, he obviously went in at halftime and must have been fuck's sake, I shouldn't have done that. And he came out and I thought he handled it quite well afterwards. But there's going to be a lot of pressure on Jared Brennan as manager of Dublin. And it's an interview for me that aged like fine wine. But when I started my first GAA podcast, Play on GAA, I met Jared Brennan at a game, a DCU UCD game, and I asked him could I interview him, and he said yes. And he's an absolute gentleman. He is such a nice guy. But there is going to be a lot of pressure on him in this Dublin manager's role. And that just showed me that you cannot be doing that. Like Jim Gavin would never have done that.
Yeah.
You know, Desi Farrell would never have done that. And you have to have a cool head about you when you're in these high pressure situations. There's no question about it, Liam. That's a high pressure situation. Dublin on the brink of relegation. You have to keep it cool.
Yeah, and especially riling up a Galway crowd. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no need to be doing it at all. It was like you mentioned about players jumping in when a player or a manager starts putting hands on players, whatever. It reminded me of Davy in 2017 between Wexford and Tip. Only the difference was Davy was running onto the pitch in that instance. But yeah, look, not an ideal situation for Brennan. And he's not only going to be under pressure now to get Dublin back up to Division 1 for next year, but you look at the Leinster Championship now. Meath are playing out of their skin at the moment. Okay, they slipped up against Cork, but they've won 6 out of 7 games. And having watched them against us yesterday, albeit we were relegated already, but I was really impressed with watching Meath and the way that they were displaying the ball. Their players are in top form at the moment. They've got a confidence about them. And they've had some tough games to win in Division 2 also. I mean, they beat Derry in the opening round. They were playing in Croke Park as well, which isn't exactly their home, you know, despite what they might start to think over the next few years if they start to build a bit of momentum. But you look at Louth as well. They picked up some form towards the end of the league campaign, got some very impressive victories. You know, I mean, I still think Dublin are probably still ahead of the likes of Westmeath at the moment and Wexford and everything like that. But who's to say they couldn't look at Dublin at the moment and think we could take a scalp out of these lads potentially as well? Kildare as well, they got relegated, but Kildare are funny old fish, aren't they? They could have easily been in the Leinster final last year, but then they also could easily have lost the Tailteann Cup. But they've now been relegated, so their confidence might be a bit on the floor there. But yeah, look, from a Dublin perspective, look, it's not the same Dublin team as a couple of years ago that got relegated. You had a fairly good feeling that they would come back up straight away. You have some very tough teams in Division 2 next year. Like you mentioned, the likes of Down, the likes of Derry, Louth, Tyrone, Cavan are no easy match as well. I don't know whether that'll be in Breffni or in Croke Park. But yeah, it's going to be very tricky for Dublin next year. As for Galway, I'd say they're probably absolutely delighted to have escaped relegation because I was not entirely impressed with them throughout the league campaign. Like, they did well to beat Armagh away from home. They did well to come back against Kerry and everything like that. Look, everyone bet Monaghan, so I can't read too much into that. But they weren't exactly, I mean, they threw the game against Donegal, in my opinion, as well. They weren't exactly magnificent throughout the league campaign. And like you mentioned, the players that they were missing there, the players that came off as well, to have lost a game in the fashion you did, I can imagine is very disappointing, not just from Dublin fans, but from Gerard Brennan's perspective as well. And yeah, heading into the Leinster Championship now, it makes it a lot more interesting. And I do expect it to be allowed. Dublin is the semi-final that will be or is a quarter-final that Dublin Louth is.
Semi-final. It's a quarter-final if you vote.
Quarter-final, yeah. Like, that's going to be a very tough game now for Dublin, you know, and especially with the fact that Gerard Brennan left Louth as well, it could add a bit of fuel to the fire. But yeah, very, very disappointing day for Dublin. For Galway, not the most satisfying of league campaigns, but considering they've got a 4th place finish out of it, which I can't believe, to be honest with you. But I'd say they'd be quite pleased with that, considering the players that they have missed throughout this league campaign.
Yeah, certainly. Tom saying it was Galway's best performance of the league. Sean saying Brennan's bust up at halftime didn't help either. It reminded me of Klopp and Arteta's bust up a few years ago with similar consequences. Gavin saying only watch the highlights. How did Dublin lose? I'd be worried it happened twice against Armagh and Galway. If Dublin want to beat Louth in the Leinster semi-final, they have to be fully on it. Brendan saying, will the other teams in Leinster look at Dublin this year and think they're there for the taking like a Wexford are allowed? Mikey asking, is Matthew still celebrating? He unfortunately can't join us. He had a prior commitment on with Davy Rispin on the We Are Meath podcast, I believe. But yeah, great pod. And yeah, definitely check it out if you haven't. But obviously Meath and Cork jointly celebrating their promotions. Sean saying the Dubs are still in transition with the sending off being very impactful. They'll still be competitive in Leinster, but you'd have to say Meath and Louth have surpassed them with Kildare and Wexford close behind. Killian the football genius saying safe to say both Armagh and Kerry fans in the athletic grounds were delighted with the final result. I'd say so. Gavin saying, are you surprised with the lack of Ballyboden players on the current Dublin team, even Coola players maybe? To be fair, Coola have a strong representation. The O'Callaghan brothers, Pater O'Cuffig Byrne, Charlie McMorrow, Owen Kennedy. Like there's a big representation. Peter Duffy would be one more that I'd like to have a look at. Brendan says it would make you wonder about ex-players as managers. And Mikey saying Ger bottled it under pressure. I don't think Dublin have played that badly. Missed a few easy points, but that's an easy fix. They can still have a say this year. Sean saying if players like Scully and Kilkenny leave the panel, surely you have to ease the pressure, seeing as there's a transition. Gavin saying Ger's third year of inter-county management. Does he get a pass on that behaviour to agree? Maybe not used to that level of pressure. There's a different level of pressure, because I get that with Louth, and I'm not for 1 second saying, but like with Louth, their trajectory is on the up and their players are getting better and better every year. Dublin, there's still a lot expected, and he doesn't have the same squad at his disposal that Dessie Farrell had when he took the job initially and when Jim Gavin took the job initially as well. The expectations are still high, but yeah, it's interesting. Tom says no more than ourselves. Dublin haven't got the players at the moment, no matter who's in charge. And Killian says Dublin won't go away. There's still quality players in there. Transition year, but Brennan will deliver long term. Brennan says one thing about Galway this year is the league with the young forwards they blooded will take the pressure off Shane Walsh and Comer. And Sean said it'll be interesting to see if the Dublin footballers decline in the coming years, what that will do for hurling in the county. He's starting to see a transition in codes gradually with Wexford. It's very, very interesting. There's a lot of things, a lot of ripple effects that this situation could have. On the Ger Brennan incident, I think, look, it was poor from him. He knows that. He immediately shook hands. Then as soon as he came out, you saw once he got the red card, shook the referee's hand, shook the guy's hand, and your man shook his hand as well. And I said that on the pod. A lot of people would have been saying, oh, that's just for appearances, yada yada, to try and get out with a red card. Well, he got sent off. So at that point, there's no need to shake your man's hand if it's just for appearances to avoid the red card. So there is genuine remorse from whoever that Galway coach is, and from Ger Brennan as well. They both got involved in something that they shouldn't have. A mistake in high pressure circumstances. That's all it is. But in future, he has to be more of a representation of what he wants his players to be. Cool-headed, calm and calculated under pressure. We can't be having that happen in the championship. And he knows that himself, which is why he was very gentlemanly afterwards when he came back out onto the field. Shane O'Donnell saying Louth to win an All-Ireland within the next 5 years, but they're heading in the right direction. There's no question about it. They are rapidly improving. But yeah, my final take on this is look, just as a Dublin fan, I'm aware that we probably will enter a period where we're not going to win as much as we have in the last decade. If you look at the history books, any dynasty that eventually comes to an end goes through a bit of a barren spell. You look at the Kilkenny hurling team, they win bags of All-Irelands under Brian Cody, and they dominate. You look at the Kilkenny team under Brian Cody, dominated the 2000s with the 4 in a row, and then won plenty of All-Irelands in the 2010s as well. Once it ended in 2015 and the last of that crop retired, they still haven't won an All-Ireland today because it's so hard to replace them. You think of the Kerry Golden Years team, 4 in a row in the 70s into the 80s, and then another 3 in a row in the mid-80s. Once those final players left, it took them until 1997 then, from 1986, to win another All-Ireland. You think of the Cork, the legendary Cork LGFA team that won 11 All-Irelands in 12 years. When the last bit of that crop finally left at the end of their All-Ireland win in 2016, when the Breed Stacks, when Arena Buckley's retired, they still haven't won another All-Ireland yet. For Dublin, we're entering the first few years of when the majority of those players that won those All-Irelands have now retired. And hopefully, Ger Brennan can nail the transition. But I'm aware as a fan that history says it's going to be difficult. And relegation is not an ideal start to that transition. But as Dublin fans, we have to be patient. We have to understand that this transition is going to take time. We're not going to see as much success as we've seen in the previous decade. I don't think any team will have a 6 in a row All-Ireland win on the men's side for a long, long time. So, yeah, I don't think any team will win 6 in a row in any of the codes again for a long, long time. So we have to be patient and we have to give them time. And relegation, not an ideal start, but we'll bounce back. I'm confident in that. The last time we got relegated, we went straight back up as league champions and won the All-Ireland in 2023. So I'm not panicking just yet. We'll see how we get on in the Leinster Championship. That will be the big teller, and into the All-Ireland as well. But yeah, we'll move on. Aaron, is there anything final you want to add before we move on?
No, like I agree with what you were saying there. Like, yeah, it was poor, obviously, from Jared Brennan and everything else. It was silly and everything else, regardless of whether something did happen before. Shouldn't have acted like that. But look, I agree with what you were saying as well. Look, he did speak very well after the game. I seen an article, I think, I'm not too sure from who, saying that he could actually potentially get away with it. So look, obviously that's good from a Dublin perspective to have him potentially still on the sidelines. Obviously, there will be questions of should you be able to get away with that? I'm not sure, but look, we'll obviously wait and see whether that is final and everything else. Without doubt, it will be a very developing situation over the next while.
Certainly so. We've got plenty of good comments in. Sean saying, regardless of the optics, I respect him owning it and shaking hands in the end as long as he learns from it. I hope he does too. Brendan saying, allowed All Ireland win is impossible because Kerry win the next 6. A confident Kerry man. I've never met one before. Armagh champ saying, back again, lads. Armagh should have won yesterday. Isfan says, great to see Liam again. I'm trying to watch as much of this live podcast as I can on my way home. Already in Hungary, depends on the train Wi-Fi. Great to have you with you again, Istvan. Mikey here saying, I think Meath will win in All Ireland in the next 5 years. I had them at dark horses this year. If they get a favourable draw, you never know. Gavin saying Kerry at the moment could do 2 or 3 in a row. They're the closest, maybe. Brennan saying, as Dublin fans, would you accept a few years in Division 2 if it meant the team is sorted for the long term with fresh talent? I'd accept maybe one more year. Like maybe what Derry did when they missed out the first time and then nailed it the second time. If that's what it takes, maybe Tyrone are going to be too strong next year, but only time will tell. I want to be back at the top table as soon as possible, though, to be honest. Lonergan here saying he should get a hefty suspension. Shocking behaviour for a manager. We're going to move on now to the other Division 1 games. The results from these games, obviously Armagh safe. They drew a Kerry by a goal and 21 to 24 points. One of the most bizarre starts to a game you'll ever see. Kerry going 10 points to 0 ahead. But eventually Armagh battle back and get themselves a draw. And that means that they were safe. Meanwhile, in the other 2 games, Mayo absolutely battered Roscommon 4-26 to 2 goals and 11 points. And Monaghan finished off their league swinging against Donegal 3-15, but Donegal had 3-20. That one was in St. Enoch's Park in Clones. So based off those 3 results, the situation is this. Kerry will play against Donegal in the league final. Mayo miss out just. Roscommon end their league on a bit of a dull note, and Armagh are safe. Liam, what do you make of them 3?
Yeah, I suppose first of all, Jesus, yeah, I think you could tell that Roscommon were in that sort of Premier League game 38 mid-table mode of we're on the beach, we've nothing to play for, so why go full pedal, full throttle in order to try and get ourselves a victory that would probably ultimately mean nothing at the end of the year. But take nothing away from Mayo. That's a very strong performance, a very strong scoreline to be putting up. I think when I saw your video on TikTok yesterday, Aaron, I think it said 446 to 211 or something like that, and I was immediately confused. Yeah. I was like, Mayo. I know Mayo did well, but I don't think they scored 446 in one game. That'd be quite impressive. But no, listen, you got to give credit to Mayo, and I mean, Aidan O'Shea is still doing it at his age, scoring a goal and 2 points. I mean, I never understood the abuse he ever got over the years. I think he's a credit to Mayo and what he's done over the years, and it's great to see.
What on earth is going on? I thought that was my Wi-Fi because you froze up.
Is him that's frozen?
It's him that's frozen, but you were frozen on my screen as well. I'd say that was insufferable for the people watching. I'm so sorry to anybody who's watching live. I thought that was.
My internet did go briefly there, and then I came back, and I was like, "Oh, this still isn't working."
So your internet actually did go.
It did actually go briefly there, yeah.
Wow.
I know.
All right.
We're okay.
Well, we've managed to sort it anyway, folks, but apologies for that. Liam has dropped from the other side of the world, which I suppose is fair enough. He was calling in from Canada. But Aaron, we will crack on. I'll just get your thoughts on those 3 games. Then the rest of Division 1, obviously, the draw between Armagh, Kerry, the win for Mayo, the huge win over Roscommon, and then Donegal shading it against a, determined Monaghan, but ultimately not enough to get the win.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think the Mayo Roscommon game was a little bit mental. To be honest with you, I know Roscommon rested a lot of players and they changed their team. I have seen a lot of Roscommon fans maybe a little bit upset and a little bit angry that maybe some of the younger players were hung out to dry a little bit, and I do understand it to a certain extent. It's probably not a great confidence builder going into the season, going into the championship and everything else. Look, I know they play, I think, New York, so you'd imagine they win that game, but considering a lot of these lads might still potentially feature when they play Mayo in the championship in a potential Connacht semi-final, provided Mayo beat London as well. Yeah, I was a little bit surprised by that. Look, Mayo did rest their team and everything else. They had a few players rested as well, but they did have some more stronger players. But one thing I would say about Mayo is the depth of their panel is frightening. Like, I mean, you've Keane McHale coming in, Paul Towie coming in. I mean, yeah, like Frank Irwin, Tommy Conroy coming off the bench. Like, this is a very, very stacked Mayo squad. It must be said. And yeah, look, obviously big win for Mayo, big win for Donegal, and obviously Armagh Kerry draw as well.
Absolutely. So Matthew Hurley has now joined us. Matthew, you missed probably the longest pause in the history of this podcast. Don't know, did you see it live? Liam's Wi-Fi froze, Aaron's Wi-Fi froze, and I think my one might have froze as well. And we all thought that our individual one was the one that had froze, and none of us said anything for about, I'd say, a solid 40 seconds. So you're lucky that you weren't part of it. But how you keep, man, enjoying the promotion celebrations?
Oh yeah, absolutely enjoying them. To be fair, obviously it was kind of brief yesterday, but I think Aaron did mention on the live stream I was working for the Southern Star as well yesterday, and got some brilliant chats, obviously, with the players and everything done by the total as well. And they're absolutely thrilled, as you can imagine. Like, I don't know, to see the stories about the players, they're singing "We Are Going Up" and things like that at home, and it was just brilliant to see that on the pitch. And I went outside the dressing room with the Cork dressing room at that point as well. Like, it was just brilliant overall to see the promotion. I'm late for this pod because I was with Davy Rispin from Meath for We Are Meath league final preview for Division 2. So spoiler, the reason I'm doing it tonight because he's one of the lucky ones to go to Prague on Thursday night, so that's why. But
that's going to be a busy couple of days for him.
Yeah, I think it's important to mention as well. We should mention about, just for everybody watching, we won't be doing the weekend preview show on Thursday. We were talking about doing it on Wednesday, lads. I think that Wednesday is still what we're thinking.
I think so, yeah.
Because let's be honest, we are all going to be watching the Hurling team play against Czech Republic. Liam, you've joined us back for our announcement. We're just reminding everyone we won't be doing the pod on Thursday with one eye on the Ireland game against Czech Republic. We're all going to be watching that game. We're going to move the weekend preview show to Wednesday at 8 p.m. in order to get behind the boys in green and hopefully see them get over the line into the next round of World Cup qualification. Yeah, I don't know if the Wi-Fi has recovered yet. I'll give him a couple of minutes and then but anyway, we'll so DC here saying Cork, congrats, well earned. It's been a very good week for Cork. I mean, Matt, you have to say, league final place confirmed and promotions confirmed in the men's Division 2, league final place confirmed in the LGFA Division 1, hurling league final place confirmed in Division 1. And on the Kamogi, even though it was a little bit of a scrappy league campaign, you have survived. Survival has been confirmed. So all in all, across the board, Division 1 has been confirmed for next year, and honours across the board potentially confirmed as well.
Potentially so, yeah. Like, it's brilliant to have, like, especially the men's footballers, the ladies footballers doing so well, because obviously the Kamogi team has had success over the last years, the hurlers have as well. And no, it's just brilliant to see newer teams come to the fore from a Cork point of view as well. And it's just good times we're living in this present moment in time, and the players deserve a lot of credit. The county board deserves a lot of credit. The Cork PRO said yesterday we must be doing something right, because we're all doing well with the codes and everything. So yeah, it's just brilliant time, and hopefully the good times will keep rolling in Croke Park next week, and in the week after in the Gaelic grounds. I think we're in the Gaelic grounds for the LGFA as well the week after that. So yeah, a few weeks ahead.
Absolutely. So we're going to move on. So confirming as well for Division 1, the final will be Kerry and Donegal, and relegated will be Monaghan and Dublin. And just looking at it, lads, let's have a little reflection on our league predictions, our league picks. Did anybody call anyone to get into the league final or relegated? I said
Kerry
a
Donegal.
Kerry Mayo league final, which it nearly was. Relegation, I got neither of them correct. I thought Monaghan and Dublin would survive.
I said Kerry Armagh final.
So Kerry, we got one right in the league final. Same for you, Matthew. You said Kerry Armagh league final.
No, I said Donegal would be in the league final and win it. Stupidly, I said Dublin would get to the league final.
Okay.
But I did get one right at relegation. I said Monaghan would go down, and they did. So I'll take it.
Aaron, what did you say?
Yeah, I actually did say Kerry Donegal in the league final with Kerry to win it. So I did get that right. Relegation and everything else, though, was a disaster. So let's not discuss that.
Gavin saying I was close to Armagh going down. I was. And Gavin also reminded us everyone had Roscommon 8th. We did. And they've certainly shown us up on that prediction with a brilliant campaign. Mikey saying would love to see Cork take the crown off Kerry and Munster this year. They will be more up for it now that they've ticked off their main goal for the year. You wouldn't know if that was their main goal for the year. Like, you really wouldn't know. I'd say if I was in that Cork camp, I'd say why not try to take the Munster title off Kerry? It's been done before. Cork beat them. They beat them in this decade. Beat them in 2020, and that was with a much worse Cork team. I'm sure they were not at the level that this current Cork crop are. So yeah, but that's Division 1 wrapped up for another year. And we're going to move on now to Division 2. And actually, we have already discussed it, but Cork's incredible win over Tyrone in Healy Park. And one of the things that I have to say is I was very, very impressed watching, because this was the main game that me and Aaron were watching when we were kind of doing the live stream. I was really, really impressed with how Cork closed out the game, because I remember thinking Tyrone have them here. They're winning all the kickouts, and then just the way that Cork held their nerve and closed out the game with the fisted point from Brian Hurley, they didn't rattle, and that was a perfect opportunity. If they were going to bottle it, it would have been very easily done.
Yeah, possibly so. And we did have a bit of luck along the way. John Cleary did admit that afterwards. So I'm sure you see the Brian Hurley 2-pointer. I'll put it this way: Brian performed very well after coming on, and he was absolutely instrumental in us winning the game in the end. But that was the most, would I call it, bizarre 2-pointer that I've ever seen in history. Like, it was just, it was something that I'd never seen before. Obviously, Sean O'Shea scored one from off the ground against Mayo. We thought that was bizarre, but that kind of incorporated a bit of skill. I don't think, like Brian said, he meant it, but I don't think he did, honestly. That was a drop short shot that it bounced off the ground and went over the bar. I was
more impressed by Stephen Sherlock's. When Stephen Sherlock hit it, I was like, fuck off. I was like, absolutely. How is he just absolutely boomed it over from, like, that was someone, again, I know that there was a strong breeze, but like, talk about measuring the wind to perfection.
And that 2-pointer was probably the clincher from a Cork point of view, because we went 16-14 up and we never lost the lead after that. And that was absolutely massive in terms of getting us up and getting us promoted. I will say from a Tyrone point of view, there was a lot of negatives, I would say, in terms of there wasn't enough intensity there. There didn't seem to be a lack of fight at times. But I will say Owen McElhone, after coming on, I thought he was electric and really caused us problems in the second half. I think he is still a very, very good player. But it was just our tenacity that we weren't going to lose. Like, I think Sean McDonald actually said to us on the pitch afterwards that no matter how Tyrone were going to throw everything at us, we weren't going to lie down. We were in this together. Every turnover ball, we're going to rob the ball back. Every time we go up the field, we're going to go up. And I think that quote epitomised one passage of play. Owen McElhone had a shot, and Stephen Sherlock, believe it or not, was the guy who blocked McElhone in terms of going through and goal. And then about a few seconds later, Maurice Shanley, our cornerback, was up the field, and he could have easily put it over the bar. He could have easily scored. And I was thinking then, like, this team would do anything to get promoted. And there seems to be a bit of a togetherness about the team. There seems to be a happiness about the team. I discussed this on Davy's podcast as well, We Are Me, that for the first time in years, there seems to be a bit of positivity around Cork. The players seem to be enjoying their football. And I genuinely think there's a really, really happy camp here. The players are celebrating with each other on the pitch as well. Like, even polar opposite, myself and Barry Manny from the Echo were actually going around the pitch and all that. And we came across Colm O'Callaghan and Dara Sheedy. Colm O'Callaghan, a very established player in the Cork team, obviously a very big player, influential player, very big midfielder, probably one of Cork's star men. Dara Sheedy's only come into the panel this season. He's a teenager. He's only under 20. And it was almost like they were the best of buddies on the pitch, the two of them. And it's just like all these players are in one tight-knit group. And it's just so great to see. It was just brilliant to see them go up and get promoted to Division 1. Obviously, there are tougher tests naturally next season, but we won't have to think about that until the next campaign. But even like there's a lot of games to look forward to. Cork against Donegal. Obviously, Cork against Kerry will really whet the appetite next year in the league, I have to say. But yeah, it's just brilliant. It's just brilliant for the players to get promoted and all that. But yeah, fantastic. I am absolutely delighted for the player. Not just from, like, obviously I was working today, but I was just delighted for the players in terms of them getting over the line. I think John mentioned in the post-match interview that these players have been through the mill over the last few years. Cork football has been questioned, but they've definitely proved it out was wrong, and they went up to Division 1. It's just brilliant to see and fantastic for the players. But as for Tyrone point of view, I know it's brilliant from a Cork point of view, and you have to take the positives. But for Tyrone to finish on 5 points out of a possible 14, there didn't seem to be, a drive about Tyrone. Like Kyle Coney, actually the RT co-commentator with Patrick Mulcahy, was actually beside me, and like I could sense his frustration about this Tyrone team at the time. Like it was poor at times. Like I think there was a 2-pointed efforts from, I think it was Darren McCurry and Jordan at times, and he was just so frustrated at the shots that were taking on. I think O'Kane, the goalkeeper, delayed a kick out, and it was just frustration around the ground for the Tyrone fans that were in there. But yeah, they have a lot of work to do going to the Armagh game in the Ulster Championship, and maybe they will improve. We'll have to see. But yesterday was all about Cork. It was just a brilliant win.
Absolutely so. And if you were to put it into words, like as someone who's followed Cork your whole life, and you tend to, because I've talked to it, I don't know, would you agree yourself, Aaron, that you tend to be also extremely kind of passionate about the sport that you're on the come up in? Like Dublin and the hurling are always kind of, you were saying as well, we've gone through the era of, we're the underdogs in most of the games that we play when it comes to the latter stages of the championship, and we're struggling to get into that Premier Division. And I think Cork football was in a similar position, but now you've obviously broken through to Division 1. How important is this? Like, if you were to put it into words, how important is this win for Cork football? And then what was the grain of rice that tipped it in your scale? Because Tyrone did give it a good lash. They are, like I said this on the live stream, that Tyrone looked to me like that there's just something missing. There's like a penny that's not dropping, but they have moments where they do, like Derek Canavan kicks a beauty or Con Kilpatrick kicks a beauty, and you're like, okay, so there's something here, but like, why is it not ticking like, machinery? But Cork obviously were doing things to neuter what Tyrone do well as well. Being at the ground, so those two questions. Number one, how important is this win for Cork football? And number two, how did it happen?
Yeah, it's hard to fathom how important it is for Cork football, because John Cleary has been saying over the last few years the main aim is to get to Division 1, and a lot of pundits maybe outside the county have questioned that. That there are better teams up there, the likes of Derry, Tyrone, Meath, potentially even Louth probably surpassed us over the last few years, arguably. But John just stuck to it and to get up to Division 1, no matter what the press were saying, no matter what critics were saying, he was sticking to his own tactics and he was sticking to his own beliefs in terms of the players to get them over the line. And that was the main thing. It is a massive thing for Cork football because we haven't played Division 1 football since 2016. And ultimately, that's a very, very long time to be without Division 1 top tier football from a Cork football point of view. So it was massive to get back up there in many ways as well. We need to be playing the bigger teams more regularly. That's probably what cost us against the games against Kerry, even when we went to extra time against them, going to the mill against them. That's what probably cost us. The fact we haven't played in Division 1 football and the fact we couldn't get this over the line. We're now playing Kerry on a regular basis next year, which is... it's fantastic. Obviously, we'll play them in the McGrath Cup and the Division 1 campaign and hopefully in the Munster Championship. That's 3 games against Kerry guaranteed next year. And that is going to be a positive thing for the group as well. And the grain of rice, I think it's just the togetherness of both counties. Like Tyrone seem... I don't know, it just doesn't seem right in the Tyrone camp at this present moment in time that there's a lot of individual players, but they don't seem to be together gelling as a group. And even in the first half, I was thinking, Ethan Jordan scoring a lot of Tyrone. He was brilliant the first half, but he was scoring a hell of a lot of points from a Tyrone point of view. Matty Donnelly was really chipping in to be fair to him as well. But it just didn't seem to click at any point from a Tyrone standpoint. And even with the younger generation coming through as well, it just doesn't seem to be clicking, which is a shame from their standpoint. But from Cork's perspective, it was just a will to fight for each other. Like I think Sean McDonald mentioned it post-match about the players willing to do anything for each other. I think Brian Hurley mentioned it as well. John Cleary said about the group, the whole management team as well. Like the reaction I know, did you see of Kevin Walsh actually? He's from Galway originally, but he's in the background team. He's a coach. He was absolutely ecstatic afterwards. So I think he was thinking at the back of his mind, number one, I've done an absolutely for this group of players that I've coached for years to go up to Division 1, to reach the Holy Grail. It's just brilliant to see. And number two, he was thinking at the back of his head, I'm going to have a crack off Galway next year in Division 1. So it's just things like that, you know. And it's fantastic for the group. And normally, I think Peter Canavan hit the nail in the head in League Sunday last night. Cork usually in the past would have played maybe as a one-man team, or they would have relied on individual brilliance, whether that be Stephen Sherlock, Brian Hurley, Chris Oak at times. But it seems like all the players are sticking together on this. Like Dara Sheedy's integrated into the team. Mark Cronin's the ultimate team player in there as well. Chris Oak Jones, Brian Hurley, even with the 4 points he got yesterday, was absolutely superb after coming on. Ian Maguire, Colm O'Callaghan, and I think it's, to be honest, James, it's more vital for the 4 players actually that got relegated with Cork in 2016 in Division 1, for them, their hard work to show to come back up to Division 1. Rory Dean, Brian Hurley, Brian O'Driscoll and Ian Maguire. It's absolutely massive for those players because those players have been through the mill from a Cork point of view over the last few years. The Munster final loss to Tipperary, the hammerings over the past few seasons, relegation trouble, going down to Division 3. They've been through it all. But both championship wins or big wins in terms of National League. So it's absolutely massive. It's massive for the group. It's massive for the fan base. And yeah, it's just brilliant. Cork are playing in the top tier next season. And the more they play against these top tier oppositions, the better. The more they play in Croke Park as well, the better as well, because I don't think they played there regularly enough either. So no, it's just brilliant. It's brilliant for this group of players. It's brilliant for the management as well. And it's brilliant that the county board stuck by John Cleary when many probably in the off-season wanted him out. And it's just superb.
Yeah, well said. My thing is going absolutely nuts. Like my touch on my on my laptop. It actually tried to print a screenshot of the 3 of us. Yeah, Killian here saying Tyrone will give us a game still. Their forwards are quality and they usually turn up against it, still hopeful for a 4 or 5 point win, but their support needs to turn up. Poor turnout so far this year. Shane saying Tyrone have great skillful players but lack physicality and size. Sean saying it's given toxicity at Tyrone. Doesn't seem a happy camp from the outside looking in. Shane saying great to see Cork back in Division 1. Seen a few of the players in Fermanagh at the weekend when going to Donegal game. Brendan saying I missed the proper Munster finals that were tough in the 2000s. Here's to hoping that they return. Killian saying, Matthew, congrats to Cork on promotion. Look forward to welcoming you to the athletic grounds next year. And Kieran saying, Killian McGuinness on fire for Dublin yesterday. Our defence couldn't get a hold of him. And Shane saying Armagh will have a field day against Tyrone in a few weeks' time. Yeah, a lot to get through there, and rounding up the division as well. Just to give a recap to anybody, we obviously did a full in-depth breakdown of it on the live watch along, but Meath get promoted as well as they beat Offaly by 222 to 18 points in O'Connor Park. They only needed a draw to get themselves up, and they got over the line with an impressive win. Derry beat Cavan by 120 to 19 points, but ultimately it was in vain. And Louth beat Kildare, condemning them to relegation by a goal and 25 to 25 points in St. Connett's Park. Samuel Roy especially looked absolutely superb in that game. Especially the 2-pointer, lads, that he kicked. It was one of the most pure strikes of a football I've seen in a long time. But anyway, we're going to move on now to Division 3, and one of the stories of the weekend, Wexford against Westmeath, 2-16 to a goal and 18 points in Wexford Park. Wexford secure back-to-back promotions in the Football League. Absolutely sensational. Sean Ryan with the ultimate Aguero moment hits the back of the net. Wexford snatch promotion away from Westmeath. Unbelievable stuff, Matthew.
Oh, it was absolutely superb. And, just to see the Wexford reaction, the Wexford fans' reaction as well. And to be honest, it just brought happiness. I know, obviously, I'm a Cork fan, you're Dublin fans as well, but you see them sorts of clips and you're like, I'm delighted for Wexford here. I'm absolutely thrilled. It was just an absolutely brilliant occasion. And even more thrilled that there was fans absolutely delighted jumping off their seats from a Wexford football perspective as well, because the hurlers have obviously taken the limelight over the last few years. But to be fair to the football supporters, the hard-going football supporters in Wexford, they got behind their team yesterday and they got the win in the end. And I don't know, just see the Wexford radio commentary integrated at the TG Car stream. Oh, it was just brilliant, and it was. I think he was saying goal, goal, goal at times. It was almost like a Spanish soccer commentator, but it was brilliant. It was just brilliant scenes from Wexford perspective, and absolutely thrilled that they've got promotion. And they're some company next year in Division 2. Obviously, a lot of people will predict them naturally to get relegated next year, but it's just brilliant that Wexford football is on the way back. Like I've said it so many times on pods, but I remember the times that they had the Matty Fords, the Kieran Lings, the PJ Banvilles. I don't know, is Ben Brosnan still in around the panel, but like they had some outstanding players, and they pushed Dublin all the way in those Leinster finals in 2011, the Leinster semi-final in 2012, to be fair to them as well. They have had fantastic footballers, fantastic teams. And someone was mentioning, Tyrone will be Wexford next year. What a downgrade that is for Tyrone. I'm saying that was an All-Ireland semi-final once, 2008. So yeah, pretty recent when you think about it as well. Like 2008, that was only the noughties. So yeah, it's brilliant for Wexford football to go back up, and absolutely thrilled for them. And Westmeath will be kicking themselves not to go back up straight to Division 2, but it was Wexford to say yesterday what a day it was.
Plenty of comments reminiscing on Wexford here, the Ford and Redmond era. As I said, Wexford football is on the rise while the hurling is on the decline. Brendan saying the passion on show in the stands in Division 3 and 4 is what football is all about. Teams that wouldn't usually be noticed getting a proper day out. And the thing is that what we've seen in these divisions is, in my opinion, Louth have laid the blueprint. If you get a good system in there and you get a good factory line of these players coming through, you can rapidly rise up through the ranks. Louth went from being in Division 4 to within 5 years competing regularly in Leinster finals and then winning a Leinster title in 2025. It can be done. And Wexford have made an unbelievable start to that journey with back-to-back promotions. They are going to be in a shark tank next year, Aaron. But if they just go into that with an open mind that, like, okay, probably going to be an uphill battle to stay up, because we've seen Offaly and Kildare go up and come straight back down. The gap, I would say, isn't as big now as it was between Division 1 and Division 2. It isn't as big anymore as it used to be. However, the gap between Division 2 and Division 3 seems to be bigger than it was 5 years ago.
Absolutely, yeah. Look, it will be tough for them. I think for most Wexford supporters and everything else, I think for now it's just about enjoying it really and not really worrying too much about next year and everything else, and enjoy the games and enjoy Wexford Park getting sold out for, maybe Dublin at home, maybe Derry at home, who knows. You're going to get some big games there. And look, to be fair to Wexford, they've absolutely earned it at the end of the day. Do you know what I mean? They're not here. This isn't a token gesture. Like they've absolutely earned it, in my opinion. It's going to be very curious to see how they do against Down in Croke Park. But yeah, like some like the younger players that have kind of made the breakthrough in the last couple of years, like Darragh Brooks, I think is a top class goalkeeper. Like some of the 2-pointers he scored were absolutely sensational. I think pound for pound, he's been one of the best goalkeepers in the league so far this year. I know we haven't had the privilege of watching Wexford week in, week out, but from the clips I have seen of him, he looks very, very good. And that's obviously going to be a huge benefit to Wexford. And look, who knows, like when Louth did go up to Division 2, I remember for the first time, 3-4 years ago, a lot of people predicted that Louth were just going to go straight back down, and that didn't happen. They held their own, and I think they ended up finishing 3rd or 4th that season. So Louth had a very good campaign that year in Division 2. So look, it's not impossible from a Wexford perspective in terms of staying up in that division. I certainly give them every chance.
Absolutely. No, it's great to see them move in the right direction. But no doubt that was the highlight from Division 3. Sligo got a very important win over Clare in Markievicz Park by 223 to 28 points. They could have been dragged into trouble because Limerick got a very impressive win over Fermanagh 215 to 20 points in McNeville Park. But both of those sides are relegated ultimately. Meanwhile, Laois ended Down's 100% record. That will probably annoy them as they go up to Division 2. But Down still were automatically promoted before a ball was kicked. Laois won 222 to 24 points. So the Division 3 final of 2026 will be Down against Wexford. Unbelievable stuff. And we had a similar story then develop in Division 4. Carlow took care of their business, 422 to 2-5 over Leitrim in Cullen Park. They absolutely annihilated Leitrim. And watching the highlights, it looked like a pretty poor performance by Leitrim, given they had so much potentially on the line. But look at this one. Longford 221, Wicklow 220. Aaron, on the live stream, this was the first bit of drama that we had. Longford pulling off an incredible late winner. Take it away.
Yeah, it was mental, really. Like, I think we were all just saying, Division 4 is kind of panning out and kind of fizzling out. And it was kind of a little bit disappointing, really. Like, all 4 games are kind of going very according to plan, which was not in line with how Division 4 has gone. But to be fair to Longford, they had absolutely other ideas, and they swung I think a 10-point turnaround or something like that in this game. Absolutely incredible stuff, I think, from a Longford perspective. And like it's been a mental league campaign from a Longford perspective. Like when you kind of break it down, like they lost the opening game to London, they actually struggled to beat Waterford, who've lost every game. But then since then they went on an absolute tear. Like they were able to beat Carlow. They obviously had that big slip up versus Leitrim as well. But yeah, the late points from Daniel Reynolds and Joseph Hagan, both just before the buzzer in the end, sealing the day from a Longford perspective. And yeah, huge result. And to be fair, like we spoke about Wexford going up to Division 2 and spicing things up. I think Locke was again in Division 3.
Matthew, do you want to throw in on this game?
Yeah, it's just a fantastic win for Longford. Like a long stages of the game, you thought Wicklow would get over the line and get over the line indeed the whole season. But to be fair, it was a fantastic win from Longford standpoint. And Oisin McConnell will be absolutely devastated for Wicklow as well to lose out promotion the way they did as well. Like it's really a good look from his point of view in terms of, I know Wicklow reached the Tata Cup semi-finals last year. They were impressive enough in that, but Longford probably needs the confidence booster. They've had a difficult couple of years under first Paddy Christie in the early reign of Mike Solan, but Solan seems to have gained a bit of positivity around the Longford camp now. The likes of Oran Kenny, the likes of Matthew Carey, they seem like very good players. And it'll be very interesting to see them in the Division 4 final against Carlow next weekend as well, especially in Croke Park as well. Be looking forward to see the likes of Oran Kenny and Matthew Carey strut their stuff. So, yeah, it's a good win for Longford, and delighted to see them back in Division 3. I think it's the first time in a bit of a while, because I remember Cork were actually down in Division 3, and Longford seemed like one of the most consistent teams in there. and they haven't reached that level kind of since. So it's going to be interesting to see how Longford kick on from here.
Yeah, no, it'll be very interesting because at the start of the league campaign, their form did not look like promotion. And we were actually discussing like what's going wrong with Longford. Something had massively changed, and fair play to them for pulling promotion out of this league campaign. And that deemed these other results relatively pointless. Antrim beating London, not enough to get promoted, 18 points to 114. And same with Tipperary beating Waterford, 419 to 18 points in Semple Stadium. Good wins, but ultimately it is Carlow and Longford who will play each other in the Division 4 final and get promoted to Division 3. Switching codes now, we're moving across to hurling, and it is confirmed the National Hurling League final for 2026 will be Limerick against Cork. The rivalry continues. Limerick beating Galway 227 to 31 points at the Gaelic grounds, and Cork hammering Offaly 626 to 20 points in Páirc Uí Chaoimh to seal that final. Matthew, as a Cork fan, again, another chapter in the rivalry is coming.
It is, and it's probably going to be a sellout at the Gaelic grounds. To be fair, obviously, the double header, I'm not really a fan of it. We'll probably get into more of that chat in the Division 1B section. But look, it's a fantastic win. It was probably expected from a Cork perspective. It was just. I was looking at this game on my phone. I was eating out in home on Saturday evening, but I was seeing the scoreline come in 4-14, 5-14, 6-14. I was like, in my head, I was just like, just stop now, lads, please. I don't want Offaly to be absolutely mauled here, but yeah, that's what exactly happened. And it was a sobering defeat from an Offaly standpoint. Obviously, with Adam Screeney, he performed very well at times, but it just, from hearing reports, they just didn't threaten the goal at all in this one. And look, it was comfortable enough from the Cork point of view to get over the line. And yeah, it's into another league final. But as for Limerick beating Galway, it was a good performance from Limerick in the first half, and I suppose that was what got them over the line. Cathal O'Neill has really done well this year, across Fitzgibbon, across the inter-county season as well. He's been absolutely superb. Even the likes of Adam English and Aidan O'Connor have really stepped up for the Treaty County as well. So yeah, it's been brilliant for Limerick at the in the league final now, and I'm sure they want to get one over in Cork in the league final, where both teams will be playing their first teams. Like at the Gaelic grounds, I don't care what anyone said. That was Cork's second team, so I'm not really counting that in terms of the trilogy or whatever. I think this will be the massive game before the Munster Championship, and I think Ben O'Connor said to the media as well, they would have had a challenge game anyway. So to have a league final in there, like, it's no harm to have that before the Tipperary game, especially against Limerick with a trophy and national trophies on the line. So it's no harm. I don't think it's a must for Cork to win it, to be honest with you, but let's see how they get on in terms of that. But just on the side note for Galway, they're going to be a threat in the championship. Aaron Nyland, Jason Rabbit, they've been absolutely superb in this league campaign for Galway, and I think they could be favourites for Leinster, especially given Kilkenny's form at this present moment as well. So yeah, I think Galway could really be a dark horse for the All-Ireland this year.
Yeah, I do agree. Liam here saying, can't jump back on, lads, with Wi-Fi issues, but can comment here. Not a great result for us. Cork the better side. We just got to move on and focus on Dublin next month. Good luck in the league finals, lads. Sean here also saying, Galway if impressed this league. Leinster will be interesting. Brendan saying Cork and Limerick laying down a huge marker to the rest for the coming championship. Yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting to see how that league final goes down. And the other game in the final round of Division 1A was Tipperary and Kilkenny having an entertaining draw in Semple Stadium by 227 to 324. There was an outside shot that Tipperary could have leapfrogged into a league final, but ultimately nothing came of it, and the game finished a draw between the old rivals, fitting in a way. But that is how Division 1A wraps up. Waterford and Offaly relegated, and Cork and Limerick into the league final. Moving down to Division 1B round 7. Aaron, this one a little bit more positive. We beat Carlow by 34 points to 214, getting the job done. We are promoted and we get another crack at Clare in that league final. And while you're at it, could you comment on Down, obviously becoming the Kings of Ulster, beating Antrim by 322 to 320 in Páirc Esler, and Wexford getting a very impressive win over Kildare, banishing any talk of an upset, 329 to 114 here.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think from a Dublin perspective, first of all, good to get the job done and get promoted. Look, I listened to this game on the radio, and everything else, obviously seen a bit of highlights since. Dublin were in the end, fairly comfortable. Like Carlo got 2 goals before half time to kind of maybe threaten to make this game a little bit more nervy than maybe it could have been. But look, as I've said all year, like Dublin have been very good now at winning the games that they're supposed to win. These were the games maybe 5-6 years ago that Dublin really struggled in, and we all remember that Laois defeat many, many years ago. And maybe there may have been worries that something similar would have happened here. But to be fair, we took care of business. John Henderson again was absolutely brilliant with 4 points. Keane O'Sullivan with 5. Huge spread of scores, and Paddy Doyle actually in particular from wing back was very, very impressive from a Dublin perspective. Donegal Dermot O'Dooling as well, scoring 5 points, was very impressive coming off the bench. So yeah, look, delighted to get promotion. Obviously, yeah, we'll give Clare a good crack in the final. And yeah, as you said, great win for Down as well. Look, they are still obviously relegated, but it's a great win for them to take, obviously going into the championship and everything else. And yeah, for Antrim, it's it's kind of a weird one. They stay up, but only 2 points on the board. And yeah, I've seen Davey getting a lot of criticism and everything else. And you do kind of wonder, will he be there next year?
Yeah, no, you do have to think about that, especially when they do hang on. Like surviving with only 1 win isn't very impressive. The other results then, Division 2, round 7 from the National Hurling League, just reflecting on the results. The final round of results saw Laois beat London 327 to 122 in McGovern Park. Westmeath hammer Mayo 237 to 114 in McHale Park. And Kerry beat Meath 218 to 18 points in St. Loman's Park. The Division 2 final for 2026 will be Laois against Kerry in O'Moore Park, and that one will be streamed live on the TG4 YouTube channel. The Division 3 final will be Wicklow versus Donegal in Ockram, and the Division 4 final will be Sligo versus Longford in Markovich Park. And that was after the results in the last round. Division 3's final results saw Fermanagh and Armagh draw 118 to 21 points at the Athletic Grounds. Donegal hammer Roscommon in the Hyde 320 to 19 points, and Wicklow hammer Louth 327 to 11 points in Ockram. And then the final round of fixtures in the Hurling League Division 4, round 7, saw Cavan beat Monaghan 116 to 15 points in Breffni Park. Warwickshire beat Lancashire 117 to 212 in Páirc na HÉireann, and Sligo beat Longford by 425 to 311 in Pearse Park. Bit of a shadow boxing there with the two teams meeting each other just next week in that league final, obviously, as I was mentioned. But that is the final round of action from the hurling leagues, all wrapped up, and we have the finals next weekend. Kieran saying our game versus Kilkenny in a few weeks is crucial. Sean saying great pod, lads, really enjoyed your watch along as well. Would be sick if you could do it more often. We will try, especially in the championship. We'll have a look as well. Kieran asking, do you think Wexford could cause a shock and get third in Leinster? I would never rule it out. They tend to have kind of voodoo powers over Kilkenny, so I certainly wouldn't rule it out, and we tend to always narrowly win or draw against them. So I certainly wouldn't rule out Wexford managing to get out of the championship, especially them showing against Kildare that they will not be caught from their perspective in the Leinster Championship this season. But moving on now, we're going to move into the LGFA's round 6 of Division 1. And once again, Matthew Cork are in another league final. Galway beat Dublin 313 to 113 in Tuam, while Cork beat Meath 4-8 to 212 in NTU Cork. So Cork beating Meath 4-8 to 212 and Galway beating Dublin 313 to 113. Those results confirm that Galway and Cork are going to play against each other in a league final. After playing each other in the Division 2 final last year, they're playing against each other in the Division 1 final as well. No doubt both counties on the rise, and it's just rewards for very impressive league campaigns.
Absolutely. So yeah, it was a fantastic win for Cork. I know Valerie Mulcahy, who was part of the backroom team, was probably unhappy that Cork conceded more scores than Meath, and that would be something of a concern to Joe Carley's backroom team, I suppose. But yeah, it was a good win from Cork perspective. Obviously, Katie Cork getting 2 goals. Amy Corcoran was very good as well, and they seem to be more of a team now. Cork, they seem to be going along pretty well at this present moment. Obviously, there could be a bit of a flash in the pan there because the bigger sides of the LGFA are seen to be struggling in Division 1 this year. So it's hard to really judge in terms of that. But yeah, it's a good win for Cork standpoint. They're into a league final now against Galway, who are, funnily enough, like the three out of the 4 LGFA All-Ireland semi-finalists are at the bottom 3 in Division 1, as far as I know. And the only one that isn't is Galway. And they've been going pretty well. I think we all earmarked them as a team to watch the All-Ireland series this year. Kate Seven, Kate Thompson, they're performing very well as well. Olivia Dively as well. Look, they seem to be on a very, very good, in a very good place. And Galway deserve a lot of credit for their form last year and this year as well. And getting to the league final, I think they'll have eyes for the trophy, to be honest with you. They need a national trophy just to get on the board in terms of a bit of confidence from Cork's point of view. I think getting to the league final is a massive achievement. They'll obviously want to win it, but I think it was unexpected from a Cork standpoint. From a Galway standpoint, did want to win the league title, and I think they'll be going to win the league title in next month.
Absolutely so. And Aaron, then the other games proved to not be too consequential as of yet, but it does shake up the relegation battle. Obviously, Kildare and Waterford drawing 210 to 113 in Fraher Field, and Armagh beating Kerry by a goal and 13 points to 2-8 in Silverbridge.
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, it does shake up the relegation. Obviously, with Dublin, Kildare, Meath, Kerry, all still very much in the mix. And like from a Dublin perspective, it was very disappointing losing to Galway. Obviously, conceding 3 goals in the first half. We were always going to be up against it, to be fair. And coming up against a top class Galway side, as we've said, probably one of the front runners maybe for the All Ireland this year. And given some of the players obviously that have been chopped and changed this year, we were always going to be up against it. And Waterford Kildare sounded like a cracker, to be fair, as well. And it's going to be an interesting next couple of games.
Absolutely so. And just recapping on the rest of the results from round 6 in the Division 2 LGFA starting off, we had Monaghan beating Wexford by 4-14 to 110. Cavan beating Tyrone in a surprise win 110 to 1-6. Mayo beating Westmeath 6-10 to 114, and Tipperary shading it against Donegal in Clonmel by 7 points to 6. Division 3's round 6 then saw Antrim beat Laois in a very entertaining game, 221 to 117 at the Antrim Centre of Excellence. Down beat Limerick by 111 to 1-5. Fermanagh beat Clare by 215 to 110, and Louth beat Roscommon by 114 to a goal and 8. And then the refixed game from Division 4 round 5, Offaly beat Longford by 3 goals and 18 points to 2 goals and 12 points in St. Rynagh's. So that was round 6 and the refixed game from round 5 respectively. The final rounds of action will take place next week in those divisions, or apologies, in 2 weeks' time in those respective divisions. And now moving on to round 5 and the final round of the National Camogi League. And we saw Galway beating Cork by 18 points to a goal and 9 in Athenry. Tipperary beating Waterford by 3 goals and 21 points to a goal and 8 in the Rag, although Waterford were already qualified for the league final and did make a lot of rotations. And Kilkenny beat Antrim by 2 goals and 18 points to a goal and 12. So, Matthew, the Camogi League final, Waterford, are they unstoppable or can they be stopped in this league final?
Of course, they can be stopped because Waterford haven't had the experience of a national trophy or even winning a trophy for that matter. Like I think Niamh Rockett mentioned that before the Munster final, that never was last year because of the Scott Shorts debacle, that Waterford want to be winning trophies to get up to the next level, and a provincial final or a national final means a lot for Waterford Camogi in terms of trying to win a trophy in many ways. But Galway are used to this. Obviously, they have lost the last 3 league finals, and I think Galway would be very, very disappointed at how those league finals have ended. I think they've lost the last 2 actually league finals, and they'll be very, very disappointed how those ended against Tip and Cork. But they'll be going to win this league trophy, especially when a lot of people may have written them off after a few losses early on in the league campaign. Obviously, with context, they were snowed in America. That was probably one of the reasons why. But they've recovered now. They are still a very good force to be reckoned with. And Galway seem to be in a good place. I'll probably back Galway in terms of their experience in getting over the line. But Waterford, if they keep up the form that they're on right now, they could win the league final. But I think there's no question on who needs the title more, Waterford or Galway. It's Waterford to need it without a doubt.
It would be huge if Waterford could top off. Like, Waterford have had a fantastic league campaign. Galway confirming their place in the Camogi League final against Waterford. And look, even though Waterford lost to Tipperary, they made a lot of changes. They were already into the league final and they knew that they were already there. So their eye was off the ball for this game, and Tipperary did put them to the sword. But Galway confirming their place. It's the perfect opponent for Waterford to really announce themselves as All-Ireland contenders again, because if you beat the All-Ireland champions in a national final for silverware, it really does throw up a signal that you are serious about winning the crown this year. So Waterford have been brilliant so far in the league campaign. Niamh Rocket has been fantastic. Beck Carton has been brilliant. Lorraine Bray looks great as well. It's just Galway's winning mentality and know-how of how to get over the line in these finals. It's going to be tough to beat them. But yeah, interesting. Rounding up as well on the other games from the National Camogi League final round, we had, of course, in Division 1B, Dublin managed to get over the line against Limerick and won that game by 2-17 to 2 goals and 8. Clare beat Offaly by 2-17 to 2-11, and Wexford beat Down by 15 points to 10 in Leitrim Fontenoys. In Division 2A's round 5, saw Kerry hammer Derry by 4-14 to 9 points in Ballinascreen. Carlow and Meath drew 17 points to 114. And Laois beat Westmeath 2-10 to 111 in O'Moore Park. In Division 3A's round 5, there was big wins for Armagh, 6-17 to 8 points they beat Wicklow by, and Kildare shaded against Tyrone 19 points to 114. While the Division 3B final, massive shout to Mayo, who beat Monaghan by 2-12 to 1-6 in Mostrom GAA in the first league final of the year. And yeah, that is a full roundup of all the weekend's action. I'm not going to lie, myself and Aaron are fairly knackered after being on the live stream for 4 hours yesterday. And I'm sure, Matthew, you're pretty tired from all the celebrations after a great weekend for Cork Gaelic games as well. But that is it from us for another weekend review show. And yeah, I suppose as well, Matthew, just I know that you posted it obviously on your page. But I wanted to give you an opportunity as well just to express your condolences as well after the legend Michael Lyster passed away. Myself and Aaron got a chance to speak on it on the live stream yesterday and pass on our deepest sympathies and talk about what he meant to us as GA fans. But yeah, an absolute legend leaves us too soon.
The Sunday game, I think Pat Spillane said this today, the Sunday game is the institute it is today because of Michael Lyster. The way he presented the game, the program, I thought was immaculate. We grew up with all of us grew up with Michael Lyster in terms of the Sunday game panel presenting him, whether it's Joe Brolly putting out a ridiculous statement or Pat Spillane cutting across a question. Michael Lyster was always cool, calm, collected, and he was a consummate professional in terms of presenting. Obviously, there was that moment with the Joe Hanning winner against Tipperary. I think there was the clip of him and Cyril Farrell celebrating as well. Like, that was just a magical clip as well. And the way he presented the Sunday game as well, I could just never forget it in terms of like he presented all the All-Ireland finals. These last All-Ireland final obviously was Dublin against Tyrone in 2018. The All-Ireland final, probably a forgettable game in terms of the game itself. Dublin won 4 in a row at the time, but I remember that day because it was Michael Lyster's last Sunday game bulletin, and the way he presented the programme was as good as any other show he has presented. He was a fantastic presenter. Obviously, like you talk about icons in RT, you talk about Micheál Hurting in terms of commentary, you talk about Bill O'Hurley in terms of soccer, and you talk about Michael Lyster in terms of the Sunday game. You talk about those icons in terms of presenting, and that's the biggest compliment I could give Michael. He was absolutely fantastic gent. He seemed like a lovely fella as well, and he was an absolutely brilliant presenter. Like, I heard about the news in the tunnel in Omagh yesterday, and even when Cork went up, it was a brilliant day for Cork beating Tyrone. I was absolutely devastated at that news. It was like a ton of bricks, to be honest with you, because obviously I grew up with Michael Lyster. You did as well, you too. You grew up with Michael Lyster presenting the Sunday game, and he was an absolutely brilliant presenter in terms of that as well. And just want to pass on my sympathies to the Lyster family and to his friends, to RT in general as well, and all at the Sunday game as well, on the loss of an absolute icon. Arieste Gareva Anam, RIP, Michael Lyster, absolute legend.
Beautifully said, man. And it was true as well. Like, Aaron, I'm sure you were in the same boat as me. I found it hard to, recompose and keep watching and keep doing the stream because, like, it's so sad. Like, it's just an absolute legend departs us. Jordan here saying great win for Mayo, and then also saying God, may God rest Michael Lyster, who's an amazing broadcaster. Hello to you all. And he said, R.I.P. Michael Lyster, legendary presenter, in the same bracket as Bill O'Herlihy. And Sean says, so sad, we grew up watching him on the Sunday game, and like Matthew said, he made it what it was. And that's beautifully put, because there are icons that come along and they make the position what it is. Micheál O'Hare became the voice of Gaelic games. Micheál O'Murray-Hertig became one of the most iconic commentators that we've ever had in Irish sport. Michael Lyster made the Sunday game presenting what it was. He made that show what it was. And he made so many kids growing up aspire to get involved in sports broadcasting. And he's in the same category as what Bill O'Herlihy did for that as well. That so many kids grew up wanting to be sports presenters, wanting to be sports commentators because of people like Michael Lyster, Micheál O'Murray-Hertig, Bill O'Herlihy, Micheál O'Hare. And it's just so sad that he's not going to be, around the GA world anymore. And but his legacy will live on. His legacy will live on. He has been, irreplaceable, and he made that role what it was. He's the one that injected that life into it and injected the class into it and everything like that. And the best compliment I can give him is in a sport that is so opinionated, where everybody has differing opinions on most things. Everybody agrees that Michael Lyster was iconic at his job. Everybody agrees that he was perfect for it. And that tells you how good he was. That tells you how perfect he was for the role. And it's so sad. But yesterday, Greven on him, Uso, and big massive condolences to all of his family and friends and anybody affected by his passing. And I want to obviously commemorate our live stream and this show as well to him, and may God rest him. Aaron, do you want to pass on anything before we wrap up?
Yeah, just what both you lads said as well, like an absolute icon of the game. I think there was something unique about him in terms of how he presented. You could tell his passion and his interest as well. I think, like, obviously it was a different era and everything else, but like, he was involved as anyone in terms of presenting. And obviously he had some big characters in that studio with him as well, in terms of Joe Brolly, Pat Spillane, Colm O'Rourke, and it was a very iconic era that he was obviously involved in. You could tell the interest and passion he obviously had in and amongst it. And as you said, very inspiring for us lads, and I'm sure for many other people as well. So I pass on my condolences to his family, friends, everyone connected, and rest in peace.
Absolutely so. Well, as Mikey says here, his voice was always in the background every Sunday when it wasn't getting drowned out by Joe Brolly. Michael managed that studio smooth as butter, never had to shout once. The best to do it. And we are going to wrap up our show there. Thank you so much to everybody who got involved in the live chat. Thank you so much to everybody who tuned in at any stage. And we will be back with you, as we said, on Wednesday this time at 8 p.m, of course, we will all be watching and cheering on the boys in green in their game against the Czech Republic on Thursday in the World Cup qualifier. So until Wednesday this time at 8 p.m, we will see you all then. August Torah.
Follow your instinct, baby. Follow your instinct.